justification for that was she was having a terrible time with scheduling problems, and she felt that that would help to alleviate that. Number one probably was to provide better services to our library patrons and to provide stability for the staff. And also that we discussed it as a board, and we agreed with her and motioned it out and all that good stuff. And that's why we're requesting that. But we knew that there was a process. I have learned a great deal. The process of going through the city council and working with you. The first part of it, of course, was we requested funding during your budgeting time. And funding for this particular position was a part of your current budget. So the money part is there, as I understand it. But as also part of your process, we were to meet with the Community Services Committee. And so we did that on May 17th to answer questions about the request. Just to let you know, the committee consisted of Councilman Clark Goodchild and Steve Wick, and also City Administrator Scott Langle. We were represented by myself and Jan Musson, who is the Vice President, and Library Director Shirley Taylor. Meeting lasted about an hour, and I will tell you that it was a spirited discussion. But at the conclusion, the Community Services Committee declined to vote one way or another on the request. So we quite honestly were at a loss to what we do now. I was, anyway, because I don't know. And it was suggested actually by one of the council members that we should take this to the full city council, and that's why I'm here right now. The Board of Trustees believes that adding this position will enhance and stabilize library services, and it will ease staff scheduling problems. And in closing, I'd like to say that with the wonderful support, quite honestly, of the City of Le Mars and generous private donation, Le Mars now has an attractive, functional, and up-to-date library building. All of the library numbers, circulation, numbers of people in the building, et cetera, are up in double-digit numbers. We would like to help, and and I think Clark quite honestly summed it up as well as any, that we want to build on this momentum and move forward so that we are providing the best. Our goal is to provide the very best service we can to our patrons, who are also your taxpayers. And so we believe that this position would be a step forward in that movement. And that's all I have to say. If you have questions for me, I'll do my best to answer them. There are probably several I can't.
You said all your numbers are up. You talking in double digits? Are you talking increased?
Percentage-wise. Percentage-wise. Yes. When I say double digit, not that we had 9 people before and now we have 10, but that it's, and we've moved up 20% or whatever.
Let me ask you this, Rob. What did you increase the library hours from the old library before you went to the Eagles Club to now? How many hours did you increase operations?
That one I'll have to ask. Shirley, do you know?
And you can ballpark it if you like.
Yeah, I am not.
56 to 63.
56 to 63.
57.
Because you guys know my concern is that we're I've already said I'm going to support a full-time person. But my concern is that there's validity. The reason I suggested this come to full council out of committee is because I think there's a lot of opinion. And I don't like a committee saying yes or no to something and then the whole council really doesn't get a weigh in. But I think there was validity in that meeting by Scott and by myself saying, you know, if you're open for 2 people reading the Daily Sentinel or 2 people working at a computer and you've got this, I think you guys have to show some due diligence in saying, you know what, these hours aren't justifying. Because if I'm running a pizza joint, I can't just be open for 6-hour period for 3 customers. That's why restaurants, you know, Archie's is closed on Mondays. It just doesn't pan out for them. I'm assuming that's the reason. So I'm asking for that due diligence with you guys on the increased operational hours.
And Clark, I can assure you that as a board, this was something to try, and we're going to give it through the winter months. Then we will sit down and look at those numbers to see if we are getting what we want for the cost that it's costing us. Now, I can't say one way or another. Summer numbers are different than winter numbers. I could show you, we can show you the summer numbers and the spring numbers, but we can't show you what happens during the winter.
Right.
So that's why we wanted to try it, and it's not written in stone. There's not a great engraving somewhere that says that we're going to do this forever and ever, because it is something that is on a trial basis, and we'll see what happens. Then we'll make that decision, and I will tell you that we're going to do that at a meeting after the winter months are passed, as we move into spring again, which will be about a year then. Okay?
Then I promise to be quiet after this comment, everybody, I really do. But I know a few years back, the library was cut, a full-time position. We eliminated a position, I can't remember what, assistant director or something like that. And I think with what's happened at the library the last 12 months, I support giving you that position back, knowing that we can go through 3 years from now and say, you know what, we need to cut. And you guys would be on a chopping block as well as street or water, okay? But my point is we did budget this. It's the dollars are there. And clearly I'm on record as saying I didn't think they should have been put there in the first place, but since they're there, moving forward, I think we need to give it a go. So I am going to make a motion to fill the library position with a full-time position.
Second.
Motion made and second.
Further discussion.
No further discussion.
Now that we got a motion and a second. Couple questions. One is, are current full-time people running overtime? And how many hours do we have with part-time people right now?
Our current full-time people are, Shirley, do you want to come up and, because you're better than I, but as I understand it, are not running overtime. We do run some overtime with our part-time people from time to time. Is that correct or not?
It's only two full-time, and I don't get paid overtime, so I'm the one that usually takes that. And
Right.
so it's rare that we run into overtime.
Okay.
We bump our part-time up when we can.
So what is a part-time hours?
They range between 5 hours a week to 24 hours a week. And then one person, children's librarian, is at 28 hours a week, which is the max for part-time.
So we trying to get the 24, the 28 to full-time, or are we trying to add one person and keep all the part-time?
We currently have a part-time position that we did not fill. We had somebody whose last day was in June, and one of the things we're hoping to do if we get this full-time position is to see if we can hold that open and see if with just the full-time, with what we have, that we can make a go of that. If we don't have action, then we're gonna lose our temp helper that we have in the summer, and without that other part-time person, then we have to make some.
So the hope is to not have part-time really in the future, maybe except for the children's one or something like that.
No,
And
we
have
would.
full-time?
We'll need a combination, because we have 8 part-time people, right? So we always will need a combination.
Okay.
Right now, we're just a little bit, we have so few full-time that we lose some consistency and and scheduling becomes difficult because of the Affordable Care Act, getting people to work on weekends, and you have to have them off during the week, and becomes complicated. And so we feel that, I couldn't speak to who would be taking the full-time position. We would list it and get the most qualified person. I think there are people interested that are part-time, but this
But-
point.
But if I'm trying to run my math skills, we're not gonna necessarily add 40 more hours a week of help. We might have a few less hours of part-time
Right,
and 40 of the full-time.
right, because
So
we
it's
would,
not a full 1538 times 40 plus benefit.
right, we would, that position that was vacated was 24 hours a week.
Okay,
And so, at this point, other people have moved up a little bit, but I would say 20 hours of that, we would try not to fill.
that we've already been spending,
Right,
and we're just going from concern, along with John's concern on this matter, is that my buddy Ken's not here. And we can easily have a 2-2 vote here. We could have a 3-1 vote, but I'm not sure that we should be voting on it without Kenny here. I think this is a big deal. We've put a lot of effort into the library. I've been sitting there for a number of years, and I think it's really cool now. I think people show up now. People that I know never went there have gone there. So all those things are wonderful, but I'm just a little hesitant to make a decision without one of the 5 of us here, because it's kind of a, you know, I can say it's a 3-year decision, but every one of these hiring decisions is kind of a forever decision, especially when you got city employees, especially when you guys have gone through budget, then the main meeting, then now you're coming here in August, and you can see it's not easy for us to make a decision. So I'm not saying I don't support it, but I'm saying probably today I don't support it just because I want to bring it back when Kenny's around. I think that's only fair.
I've got a question just to get here from my own self. On your part-time people, are they in the benefit program?
No.
Not health, they get vacation,
But they're not
no
in.
insurance.
No insurance.
Okay.
Which is a big part of the.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, thanks for clearing that up, because I wasn't sure.
And the second big part is that they get diapers, they get social security matching, but they're doing it on 20 hours versus 40 hours too. So, you know, there's other costs with this, but it's, I sure don't want to slow down the library momentum, but I'm also sitting
And
there.
underneath the new workable law, which is what, 29 weeks, is that? am I right?
29 hours a week.
Or 29 hours a week, you've been able to work that through,
She
right?
says she's been maximizing. She's been running right up to the limit.
Some people we have to, because if we have to cover a weekend, you know, if there's vacation, because some people have other jobs, because when you have a, you know, this part-time job wouldn't have insurance, they don't have insurance, so they have a job with insurance, so then we have to work around that. So, yeah, there's a lot of
None of this stuff is
scheduling
very easy.
issues
I understand
on
that.
that,
I understand
yeah, so. So it kind of leaves us at a point where, we too are looking at, a retirement probably within 2 to 3 years. That might be another time for us to look and see, well, did we need another part-time, or like the other departments, would we try not to fill it immediately? That's an option for us as well.
Okay.
Have you had discussions like Scott had with those people that are getting that?
Mhm.
Okay, and they're.
Are they full-time, looking at that?
Mhm.
And
For retirement?
And they potentially are looking at that.
I would say within the 2 to 3 year mark, yes.
Okay, well, I appreciate
Yeah.
the motion on the table, but I think we should wait till Kenny's here to decide, but that's.
And I concur with Rex's comment.
That's just mine.
All right, so what the motion is, what is
The motion is
To approve
Yeah,
a full-time hire.
so we have a no roll call, so you just say all in favor or all opposed, and we move on.
All right.
Just a point of clarification, if I could.
Yep.
It says we're adding a full-time position. What is it? Assistant library director, librarian 1, library aide. In the documents that were submitted to the committee back in May, which I don't have in front of me, but my recollection is it could be any one of those 3. So what's being proposed here today?
It's a full-time position that's been budgeted at Library 1, so it couldn't be we don't have the money to hire an assistant director, and that's not the motion, because it just hasn't been what has come out of the library board. But it would be anything that we could, it might be less than the pay rate that you see there, but we have budgeted at that pay rate of the 1538.
I guess before we vote, I've got a question for John and Rex then, and that is by putting it in the budget, what did you hope to see June 1st that said, let's do it? Or what have you seen August 1st saying, let's not do it? We put it in the budget. So either we were playing games with the budget, or this was a serious matter. And I seriously don't get tabling it, or I don't get the weighting. If it fails, it fails.
When it was budgeted, it was still under the condition that we review each situation before a permanent position would be filled.
And the committee did review it. That we, Steve and I, Dick, whoever else, Scott was there, whoever Rob said, we did review it.
And in that committee, it came out, they bring it back to the council.
Yes, and I'm the one who said, take it to the full council, because I want this discussion.
And we did,
I want this discussion. But we've put so much in that library the last 12 months, the last year and a half. I'm just not tracking why we're hesitating now. I wanted to wait a full year at budget time. I said to Jason, don't put it in there, don't put it in there. I told the library board, I said, you're gonna hate me. I said, don't put it in there. We put it in there. What are we hoping to see? So that's my question.
I'll try to answer that. Member Clark, on the May 17th meeting, we asked the library group that was present there, that let's take a look at those hours, and they were claiming that it's more and more difficult to find a part-time person to fill the hours, and so they need a full-time. But they were supposed to come back to us with an analysis of what that meant. What does it mean on the number of hours that, and I think Rex alluded to this, of the increased hours, can we reduce the part-time? Can we reduce the number of hours that the library is open? And I think you stated it at the beginning of your dialogue that, I am totally against having a library that's open for two patrons to come in and read the newspaper. I think that's very cost inefficient. We wouldn't do it in many, many of our other departments, so I don't know why we're allowing it here. And another point of clarification, I'm not against it, it's just that we threw a whole lot of questions on the table, and to date, now maybe my sickness has kept me at bay to some of the answers to those questions, but I haven't seen anything that would answer the questions that we posed on the table back in May.
Well, if I may speak just a second to part of that, we have already talked about not filling a part-time position. And so, I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for. We have all the hour, all the door counts, all the percentages. I don't know what you're really going to get from that to see, I'm not so sure we want to have a library where we say, well, you're not having many people from 2 to 3 in the afternoon, so we're going to close it for an hour, but they come in, a lot of them, at 4. That makes a very difficult situation.
Rob, can I interrupt for just a
Yeah.
second? When I went through and we were talking after our committee meeting, I went and I looked at several area libraries, Sioux Center, I can't remember.
Yeah, I know.
But a lot of them libraries don't open till 11. I don't think anybody's looking for island scheduling.
Okay.
But I think, to not open till 11 because there's 7 patrons that come in on Mondays and Wednesdays from 8 till 11 or whatever. I think that's what Scott and I are talking about. And I totally support the library board looking tightly at those door counts. If so, that's what I'm talking about for sure. I think Scott is too. So.
I don't know if I gave my quarterly report on Wednesday, and I know those, I think, go to you, and I don't know if you've had a chance to read those or not. But I would want to point out that in that quarterly report, we opened December 20th in that new facility, and so I ran those numbers December 20th to the end of June, and our circulation is up 26% from the same time the year before, and 20% from the year prior to that. So then also, summer reading, the percentage increase a year over is 20% up. So, you know, and I will say this is a time where a lot of libraries struggle, but we are doing very well. So I think the characterization that we have 2 people reading a newspaper and we have all this staff milling about is unfair.
I think it's a general comment.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I'm not trying to make that
I'm just-
suggestion, I'm sorry if that's the way it
No,
sounds.
'cause I'm not trying to come off that way.
What I was trying to do is figure out, maybe just on a monthly basis, how many hours we have staffed. And then you said that we're not gonna fill the 20-hour person, I believe, and we're gonna fill with a 40-hour person. If we're only going up 20 hours, that makes a difference on the way I look at it compared to going up 40 hours of people time. So if we can do some simple analysis that shows hours on a monthly basis for, what, 4 or 5 months, instead of we have the part-time person in there, and show where you are with a full-time person, then that, you're not gonna hire then 2 weeks later after the full-time, you're gonna hire the part-time back again, and we're gonna be up and out. And I don't think you do that, I'm not suggesting you do that, I just wanna know how many dollars we're talking about in this process, because I know that we had more in the part-time last year than we had the year before, because
We always do.
it
We
was-
have been here since I've
it
been here.
happens. It happens
Yeah.
on every department.
Right.
And
But we-
I pick on the police department, because all of a sudden they got a crime, and they gotta have overtime. Well, I'm sorry, you know,
Well, we don't have we have been very,
very low.
there's, I think maybe 1 or 2 weeks out of since I've been
But
here.
the part-time line has gone up on the budget.
Sure,
And that's what I'm saying, if I can take some from the part-time line and
Yeah.
say it's a full-time person, if that's what you're intending, and that's what we're trying to look for, then at least I know what my net cost is.
right.
And I'm not saying that, you know, it sounds like I'm a big ogre that hates you guys or something, I'm not. I'm in favor of everything you've done over there and stuff. But I'm just trying to make sure that I don't add a $40,000 person just for that circulation increase, because I don't think that's enough just by itself.
We want to see some more numbers.
You know, and I don't need it to be
He did.
this person, this day, that day, I just want a total for the hours. I think